Hello, BookTube. This is the final and fifth shelf of the third bookcase. Again, has been mostly maritime books, with one or two exceptions thrown in. So let's get right to it. So the first thing I have here is this boxed 2-volume thing, Moods of the Sea and Short Stories of the Sea, and these were put out by the Naval Institute Press. Let me see here, sorry about that. So the Short Stories of the Sea are selected and arranged by George C. Solly and Eric Steinbaugh, with introductions and biographies by David O. Tomlinson. Here it is. They're paper. So it was Naval Institute Press, Annapolis, Maryland, 1984. And on the back, they give you your table of contents. So for Sea and Shore, you'd have Footprints on the Seashore by Nathaniel Hawthorne, Malachi's Cove by Anthony Trollope, All My Sad Captives, Sarah Orne Jewett, Being Ashore on Growing Old by John Masefield, Mutiny by John Thomason, Lifeguard by John Updike. Under Sea Lore and Legends, you'd have About All Kinds of Ships, which was by Mark Twain, The Devil in the Deep Sea by Rudyard Kipling. I'm only reading a few of them here. A Story of Land and Sea by Lord Dunsany. Adventures at Sea. Blow Up the Brig by Wilkie Collins. The Merry Men by Robert Louis Stevenson. Make Westing by Jack London. Night Stalk by C.S. Forester. HMS Marlborough Will Enter Harbor by Nicholas Montserrat. Under a section called Storm and Shipwreck, you have MS Found in a Bottle by Edgar Allan Poe. The Derelict by H.M. Tomlinson, and After the Storm by Ernest Hemingway. And Great Stories of the Sea, you have Benito Sereno by Herman Melville, The Open Boat by Stephen Crane, Youth and the Secret Sharer by Joseph Conrad. The second volume is Moods of the Sea, Masterworks of Sea Poetry. These were selected and arranged by George C. Solly and Eric Steinbaugh. Here's there you go. 1981, Annapolis, Maryland, Naval Institute Press. So you have selections from Thomas Campion, Edmund Spencer, John Milton, John Keats, William Cullen Bryant, Henry Wadsworth Longfellow, Robert Louis Stevenson, Kipling, Melville, Rupert Brooke, Marion Moore, D.H. Lawrence, a lot of D.H. Lawrence, Langston Hughes. There's a lot of it, so I'm not going to read everything. Simple. James Russell Lowell, William Cowper. So nice collection without damaging it. Then next here we have this ex-library copy. I almost never keep ex-library copies, which I probably mentioned before. You can The Story of Lighthouses by Mary Ellen Chase, well-known person. Wood engravings by Erwin Schochner. I'm hoping I pronounced that right. But you see, it has a little call number on the side. The reason I kept it is my mom found it for me. And the woodcut. Like, this is Eddystone Lighthouse. That's quite a woodcut. I really like that, actually. So this is W.W. Norton and Company, New York, 1965. So let's see if they have any more of the woodcuts. Here's a coastal scene. A neat little book. This one here is wonderful. This is the Billy Ruffian. It's written by David Corderling. The Bellerophon and the Downfall of Napoleon, the biography of a ship of the line, 1782 to 1836. These are the end papers. Bloomsbury, 2003, New York and London, first U.S. edition. So this is in, well, see, you get the good maps, which these types of books can be incredibly important. You're trying to follow the action, you know. More. Because this is a ship that really did get well finally. But it also has photographs. Another section here, some in color. So, from the author of Under the Black Flag, the biography of a British warship and a portrait of a world at war during the Napoleonic era, the story of the 74-gun warship Bellerophon. The reason they call it the Billy Ruffian is because nobody can pronounce it. I'm not the only one who has trouble with the word. The story of the ship will be familiar to anyone who's read Patrick O'Brian or C.S. Forrester. The Billy Ruffian runs from its subject's birth in a small shipyard in 1782 to her death in a breakage yard more than 50 years later, after serving as a prison hulk. In the intervening years, the Billy Ruffian played a conspicuous part in three of the most famous of all sea battles. The Battle of the Glorious 1st of June, which took place in 1794, the opening action against revolutionary France, the Battle of the Nile, 1798, which halted Napoleon's eastern expansion from Cairo, and the Battle of Trafalgar, 1805, which established British naval supremacy for 100 years. But her crowning glories came 6 weeks after the Battle of Waterloo in 1815, when Napoleon, trapped on Rochefort, surrendered to the captain of the ship that had dogged his steps for more than 20 years. So, a lot of these maps and throughout too, historic maps. Absolutely great book. Great. This is if you can find a copy of this one and that's your sort of thing, this is one I can highly recommend. The next volume, The Navy of Britain by M. Lewis. The Navy of Britain, a historical portrait by Michael Lewis, Professor of History, Royal Naval College, Greenwich. Illustrated, London, George Allen and Unwin Limited. People who like The Hobbit will remember that publisher. Museum Street. First published 1948. That's the Sovereign of the Seas, that image. So they start before the Tudors. The Round Ship, 1470. That must have been fun to ride in that thing. The Midland type, a captain, circa 1800. Sir George Rooke, author of the Permanent Fighting Instructions. So, naval history. It gets up to modern-ish times. That was the light fleet carrier HMS Colossus, 1945. And it's published in 48, so up through the Second World War. This next one's another history. George C. Doohan, If by Sea, the forging of the American Navy from the Revolution to the War of 1812. Basic Books, New York, 2008. When the American colonies took up arms against Great Britain, they were confronting the greatest sea power of the age. The American Navy was born when the first shots were fired at Lexington and Concord in April 1775. Although the new Continental Fleet ultimately proved far too weak to make any significant contribution to the war effort. But it was during the War of Independence that America took its first steps towards becoming a naval power. America's path to worldwide naval supremacy was not a simple one. The Founding Fathers fought strenuously over whether or not the fledgling nation truly needed a deep-water fleet. A navy built on the British model would be crushingly expensive. It might also lure America into foreign wars that would destabilize the nascent republic. So, History of the American Navy. And then finally, this is a 2-volume set. And this is just something I used when I was in the service. I'll start off with volume 1 here. This is what we called the Bowditch, the American Practical Navigator, volume 1, 1984. Here's Mr. Bowditch. This was, let me see, your publication. This is a government pub. So, published by the Defense Mapping Agency Hydrographic Topographic Center. 1984 edition. Nathaniel Bowditch was born on March 26, 1773 at Salem, Mass. Fourth of 7 children of shipmaster, Habakkuk Bowditch and his wife Mary. He was a mathematical genius, and these books are pretty technical. But anything you want to know about navigation, like tides and currents, similar to the Dutton's type thing we were looking at earlier. And then it has a second volume. And it's more of the same, so not something I'd recommend to you unless you're into this sort of thing. I don't use them much anymore. I keep them for sentimental reasons, really. Imagine they do a lot of this stuff on the computer now. Maybe they still do the books, I don't know. So that's the end of the first half of the 5th and final shelf of the 3rd bookcase. Thank you, BookTube.